Shiflin and Hall, again, solid. But again, I'll take Umar and I'll take Keyshawn Johnson. That to me is the key. And then you start looking at their perimeter a little bit. You've got obviously Gerard, who we just talked about, who's a shooter that Arizona's going to have to run off the line. And then Chase Hunter at the point guard spot. He's a good, solid player. He's not going to be the guy, though, that is going to drop 25 points, but he's a good, solid player. There's nothing wrong with him.
Knock on wood, Mike.
Right.
When you say something like that, you have
I know. It's
probably. I like Hunter quite a bit.
He's good.
I think he's good. He's not a great shooter. He shoots 41%, but he's been really good this tournament. I mean, like really good. He had 20 against Baylor. He had 21 against New Mexico. But he's another guy. I actually would go as far to say as, we talked about Hall and Gerard and all that. I told you before we went on, I think he's the key. I think if Chase Hunter doesn't play well, Clemson has no chance because Arizona has the size to compete with Clemson. And when you look at the games where Hunter struggled, 2 points against Boston College, they lost by 20. 4 points against Notre Dame, they lost. 10 points against North Carolina State, not efficient, they lost. You go back to all his games, 11 points, not efficient, to Duke, they lost. Every game that they have lost was because he didn't shoot or play well. Every single.
And that, to me, is why Jaden Bradley is going to be huge in this game. Listen, obviously, you go with Kylan Boswell. People know what I think on this issue, but you start Kylan Boswell. You do not change your starting lineup as the Sweet 16 approaches. But with the way that Jaden Bradley can defend, you got to make Hunter's life difficult. And I think that that's something that he is uniquely qualified to do. I'm very excited to see what Jaden Bradley can do because, again, I think he's going to perform very well in this game. I'm also curious if that was a little bit of a breakout performance, but he's got to make Hunter's life difficult because I agree with you. I think Hunter is the most important player on this team. And honestly, I don't even know that it's close for many of the reasons that you just laid out there.
Ball pressure, right? You don't give him anything clean whatsoever. And if he wants to force shots, because he'll force shots, so be it. But again, Baylor made a mistake where very similar to Dayton, don't let them walk up and set into their offense because they will walk it up. Right. They have no problem walking the ball up court. They are not a fast tempo team at all. They're 257th in tempo. Don't let them walk it up. They get a rebound, pressure. I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona pressed a little bit. Not like a real press, but just a man-to-man, I'm going to slowly kind of guard you while you go up court because you can't give Hunter and just let him walk up court.
What this really comes down to me is this. Arizona has better players than Clemson. They're more dynamic than Clemson. Arizona should win this basketball game. Again, I get anything can happen in March. Arizona should win this basketball game. Sheer, I see you disagreeing with me. Why are you disagreeing with me?
I'm a little nervous because you thought Arizona was losing to Long Beach and Dayton.
Never said that. Never said that.
How good was it? How good was it? I just, you're like me with the NFL that one year, right? When I watched, because with Long Beach State, you're like, I watched the championship game. And I was like, Mike, I've watched a bunch of their games. They're terrible. I don't know. And then Dayton, you were like frightened. I was like, Mike, they're not very good. I've watched a lot of Clemson games. They're very similar to Arizona during the regular season in that you can get really good Clemson. And there's been games, remember, they beat Alabama. They beat South Carolina, who I'm not a big fan of. But, still, they were ranked. But they beat Boise State. They blew them out. They beat Alabama. They beat South Carolina. But then you look at them, and they have games where they're blown out by Miami, blown out by Virginia Tech. They lost to Georgia Tech. They lost to Virginia, Notre Dame. They lost to Boston College by 20. You just don't know what you're going to get on any given night.
The line feels about right, honestly. I think I texted you. I said, I think it's going to be 6.5. It turned out to be 7.5. The line feels about right, Sheer.
And it'll move closer. I wouldn't worry about it. Dayton moved closer too. I don't know why. I think it's probably the unpredictability of Arizona. But, there's a lot of storylines. Clemson finished their game last night, right? Mm-hmm. Arizona was home. So now they fly back to South Carolina. They have today only, and then they're flying back tomorrow. Arizona probably got into practice at McHale today.